At the trading post, everyone ignored the old woman. Until a poor cowboy gave her a hand. She owned the sun was already high above the wide desert when the small trading post came alive with its usual noise. Horses stamped their feet near the wooden fence. Travelers moved in and out of the dusty building, buying supplies, drinking water, and resting before continuing their long journeys through the dry land. It was a place where everyone came and went quickly, and no one stayed long enough to know anyone else. Near the water barrels, an old woman sat quietly on a wooden crate. She looked tired, but there was something unusual about her silence. Her clothes were simple and worn, faded by the sun and time. A thin shawl covered her shoulders, and a small bag rested beside her feet. She did not ask for attention. She did not call out to anyone. She simply existed in the corner of the busy world, as if she had become part of the dust and wood around her. Most people passed her without even a glance. Some looked at her and quickly turned away. Others acted as if she was invisible. A few even whispered to each other, guessing she might just be another wandering beggar who had lost her way in the harsh desert lands. The trading post owner did not bother her. The travelers did not stop for her. Even the workers avoided standing too close. But among all these people, there was one who noticed her. His name was Ethan Cole. Ethan was a young cowboy who did not have much in life. He did small jobs for ranchers, delivered supplies, and sometimes helped repair fences or guide cattle. He never stayed in one place for too long because work was always uncertain. His clothes were old, and his boots had seen many miles. Still, there was a calmness in his eyes that made him different from others. That day, Ethan had come to the trading post looking for work and a little food. He had not planned on anything unusual happening. But when he stepped down from his horse and looked around, his attention stopped on the old woman sitting near the barrels. At first, he thought she might be resting. But as he watched for a moment longer, he noticed something that others had missed. She was not weak in the way people assumed. She sat with quiet strength, like someone who had seen many years of life and had learned to stay steady even when the world was unkind. Then, something happened. A small sack of supplies slipped from her hands and fell onto the dusty ground. A few apples rolled away. The people nearby saw it, but no one moved. Some pretended not to notice. Others simply walked past her without caring. Ethan stood still for a moment. He looked at the crowd. No one was helping her. Without thinking too much, he walked forward. He knelt beside her and carefully picked up the scattered items. He brushed the dust off the apples and placed everything back into her small sack. His movements were simple and respectful, as if it was the most natural thing to do. The old woman watched him closely. Her eyes were sharp in a quiet way, not cold, but observant. It felt like she was studying him, not just seeing what he did, but understanding why he did it. When Ethan finished, he gently handed her the bag. "Here you go, ma'am," he said softly. For a moment, she did not speak. The noise of the trading post seemed to fade around them. Then, she slowly took the bag from him. "You are the only one who stopped," she said in a calm voice. Ethan gave a small shrug, a little uncomfortable. "It was nothing. You dropped your things." But the old woman shook her head slightly. "No," she said. "Most people see trouble and choose to walk away. You did not." Ethan did not know how to respond to that. He was not used to being noticed for small kindness. He simply nodded and stepped back, ready to leave. Before he could turn away, the woman spoke again. "Kindness is rare in places like this," she said. "I will remember yours." Ethan paused for a second, but then gave a polite smile. "Safe travels, ma'am," he said before walking toward the trading post entrance. He thought the moment was over. Just another small act in an ordinary day. But as he stepped inside, he did not see the way the old woman continued to watch him. Nor did he notice how her expression changed slightly, as if she had just found something she had been looking for a very long time. And deep in the quiet corners of that dusty trading post, something unseen had already begun to shift. The trading post looked the same the next morning, but something about it felt different to Ethan Cole. The wooden walls still creaked in the wind. The same old bell still rang when someone entered. Traders still shouted prices, and horses still waited outside in the dust. Yet Ethan could not ignore a strange feeling in his mind. It all started because of the old woman. After helping her the day before, Ethan had not expected anything in return. To him, it was just a small act. But in a place like this, small actions often carried hidden weight. People did not forget easily, especially when something unusual happened. When Ethan returned to the trading post that morning, he noticed people acting differently. They were not openly talking about the old woman, but their eyes gave them away. Some whispered near the counter. Others suddenly stopped speaking when Ethan walked past. A few even avoided standing too close to him. Ethan felt it, but he did not understand it. He went to the counter and asked for water and a small piece of bread. The shopkeeper, a thick man with tired eyes, handed it over quickly without his usual small talk. He looked nervous, as if he wanted Ethan to leave as soon as possible. Ethan frowned slightly but said nothing. He sat near the wall and ate quietly while watching the room. That was when he noticed something else. The sheriff, who usually visited the trading post to check on travelers, was there too. But instead of speaking confidently as he normally did, he stood near the door, glancing around carefully. His eyes stopped briefly in the corner where the old woman had sat the day before, but she was not there now. Ethan leaned forward a little, curious. Something about all this felt connected, but he could not see how. After finishing his food, Ethan decided to ask about her. He approached a young worker who was stacking crates. "Hey," Ethan said calmly. "The old woman who was sitting outside yesterday. Do you know where she went?" The worker froze for a moment. His hands stopped moving. He looked around quickly, as if checking whether someone was listening. "I don't know," the worker said quickly. "She comes and goes." "That's all?" Ethan asked. The worker nodded but did not meet his eyes. Then he turned away and walked faster than before. Ethan stood still, now more curious than before. People here clearly knew something, but no one wanted to talk about it. He decided to wait. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky and the trading post grew busier. Ethan helped carry a few supplies for a rancher, hoping to distract himself. But his mind kept returning to the old woman. By late afternoon, something unusual happened. A small group of riders arrived at the trading post. They were dressed differently from regular travelers. Clean clothes, well-kept horses, and a quiet confidence in how they moved. When they entered the trading post, the entire atmosphere changed. People stopped talking. Even the shopkeeper straightened up. The riders did not stay long. They spoke quietly with the shopkeeper and the sheriff. Ethan could not hear everything, but he caught a few words. Records, land, and claim. When the riders left, tension remained behind them like dust in the air. Ethan felt it again, that feeling that something important was hidden beneath the surface of this place. Later that evening, as the light faded, Ethan stepped outside to get fresh air. The desert wind was cooler now, and the sky was turning orange. That was when he saw something lying near the water barrels. It was a small metal object. He walked closer and picked it up. It was a token, old but carefully made. There was a strange symbol carved into it, something he had never seen before. It was not money. It looked more like a mark of ownership or identity. Ethan turned it in his hand, confused. Then a voice spoke from behind him. "You should not have found that." Ethan quickly turned around. A man stood a few steps away. He was not from the trading post. His clothes were dark and his face was serious. His eyes were fixed on the token in Ethan's hand. Ethan slowly tightened his grip. "What is this?" he asked. The man did not answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer and lowered his voice. "That belongs to someone you should not be involved with," he said. Ethan stayed calm, but his curiosity grew even stronger. "The old woman?" he asked. The man's expression changed slightly, but he said nothing. Then he spoke again, slower this time. "Forget what you saw. Forget her, if you know what is good for you." For a moment, there was silence between them. Then the man turned and walked away into the darkening desert. Ethan stood alone, holding the strange token. Now it was no longer just about a kind act. Something much bigger was connected to that old woman, and somehow he had already stepped into it. The night at the trading post felt longer than usual. Ethan Cole stood outside under the dim glow of the lanterns, still holding the small metal token in his hand. The desert wind moved slowly across the empty ground, carrying dust and silence with it. The strange symbol carved into the token seemed to catch the light in a way that made Ethan think it was more important than it first appeared. He turned it over again and again, trying to understand it, but it meant nothing to him. Still, the warning from the mysterious man would not leave his mind. "Forget her," the man had said, "if you know what is good for you." Ethan was not the kind of person who forgot things easily, especially when something did not make sense. And right now, nothing made sense at all. Why would an old woman cause fear in people who seemed powerful and experienced? Why would strangers arrive and speak in secret words like land and records? And why would a simple token carry such importance? Ethan decided he could not ignore it anymore. The next morning, before the sun fully rose, he left the trading post quietly. He followed a narrow path outside town, guided only by memory and a feeling that he was heading in the right direction. The land was quiet, open, and wide. The sky looked endless above him. After nearly an hour of walking, he saw something in the distance. A small building stood alone near a hill. It was old, made of stone and wood, partly hidden by desert grass. A faded wooden cross stood nearby, marking it as an abandoned chapel. Ethan slowed his steps as he approached. The air around the place felt different. Not dangerous, just still, like time itself had paused there. He pushed the old door open. Inside, the chapel was simple. Dust covered the benches, and sunlight came through broken windows in thin lines. At the far end, someone was sitting. It was the old woman. Ethan stopped for a moment, surprised, but not shocked. Something about this felt like it was always going to lead here. She turned her head slowly when she saw him. "You followed the wrong questions," she said calmly. Ethan stepped forward carefully. "Maybe," he replied. "But I think I followed the right person." For the first time, the old woman gave a small, tired smile. "You are not like the others," she said. Ethan looked at her closely now. Up close, she still looked like an ordinary old woman, but there was something strong in her presence, something steady, not weak at all. He took out the metal token. "I was given this warning because of it," he said. "I think people are afraid of you, but I don't understand why." The woman looked at the token for a long moment. Her expression changed slightly, not fear, but memory. Then she spoke. "That symbol is not just a mark," she said. "It is a claim, a legal ownership mark. It belongs to land that many people tried to take from me." Ethan frowned. "Land?" She nodded slowly. "This trading post, the land around it, even parts of the nearby routes, they were once mine, not just mine to live on, but mine by record, by law, and by proof." Ethan stayed quiet, listening carefully. The old woman continued. "Years ago, I built this place with my family. We worked hard. We kept records, agreements, everything properly done. But when my family was gone, powerful people tried to take it quietly. They thought no one would protect it." She looked down for a moment, then back at Ethan. "So I disappeared." Ethan's eyes widened slightly. "You disappeared on purpose?" "Yes," she said. "I wanted to see what would remain if I was gone. Would anyone respect what was right? Or would everything be taken by force and silence?" Ethan looked down at the token again. "And the trading post, it still belongs to you?" She nodded. "But people there don't know that," Ethan said. "They were never told the full truth," she replied. "And some people made sure of that." A long silence followed. Ethan finally spoke again. "So why are you there now? Sitting like that? Letting people treat you like nothing?" The woman looked at him with calm eyes. "Because I wanted to see who still had honesty in this land," she said. "Not everyone who has power shows their true self, and not everyone without power is weak." She paused, then added softly, "You were the first person who saw me as a human, not as a problem." Ethan did not know what to say. The weight of her words settled in his mind. Everything he thought was simple was now turning into something far bigger. After a moment, she stood up slowly. "I did not call you here by chance," she said. "You came because you chose to help me without reason. That choice matters." Ethan looked at her carefully. "What happens now?" The old woman turned toward the broken window, where sunlight spilled across the dusty floor. "Now," she said, "the truth begins to return." And for the first time, Ethan understood that the story of the trading post was not over. It had only just begun to reveal itself. The morning sun rose slowly over the desert, painting the sky in soft orange and gold. The trading post looked the same as always, but the people inside it felt different. There was a quiet tension in the air, like everyone was waiting for something they could not understand. Ethan Cole returned from the old chapel with many thoughts in his mind. The words of the old woman stayed with him. The truth she revealed was heavier than he expected. The trading post, the land, the records, it was all connected to her. But more than that, Ethan realized something important. She was not just a forgotten woman. She was someone who had been pushed out of her own life. When Ethan entered the trading post, people noticed him immediately. The same workers who ignored him before now looked at him carefully. Some avoided his eyes, others whispered quietly, trying not to be heard. Ethan ignored them and walked straight to the counter. The shopkeeper looked nervous again. "You came back," he said slowly. Ethan nodded. "I need to speak to the sheriff," he replied. The shopkeeper hesitated. "He's busy." Ethan placed the metal token on the counter. "Tell him it is about this." The shopkeeper's face changed instantly. He stared at the token, then quickly disappeared into the back room. Minutes later, the sheriff arrived. His usual confident walk was gone. Instead, he looked serious and slightly uneasy. He picked up the token and studied it closely. "Where did you get this?" he asked. Ethan stayed calm. "From someone who actually owns this land." The sheriff frowned. "That old woman again?" Ethan nodded. "She is not just an old woman. She is the rightful owner of this trading post and everything around it." The room became silent. A few traders nearby stopped what they were doing. The atmosphere tightened. The sheriff lowered his voice. You don't understand how things work here, boy. Claims like that disappear over time. Records get lost. Things change. Ethan looked directly at him. Or they get hidden. The sheriff did not respond. At that moment, the trading post doors opened again. A group of well-dressed men entered, the same ones Ethan had seen before. They moved with confidence, like they owned the place without saying a word. One of them carried a small leather case. The leader stepped forward. We are here to finalize ownership of this property, he said firmly. The sheriff looked uncomfortable. The shopkeeper froze. Ethan stepped forward. You are too late. The men turned to him. Ethan continued. The real owner is alive, and she has proof. The leader smirked slightly. An old woman with no power? That's your proof? Before Ethan could answer, another voice interrupted from the doorway. She is more than enough proof. Everyone turned. The old woman stood there, but she was not dressed like before. This time she wore a clean, simple coat. Her posture was strong. Her eyes were steady. She no longer looked like someone forgotten in a corner. She looked like someone who had returned to her place. The room fell completely silent. The shopkeeper stepped back. The sheriff looked away for a moment. The old woman walked forward slowly. You tried to erase me, she said calmly. But you forgot something important. She placed a bundle of old papers on the counter. These are original land records, signed, witnessed, and never canceled. The men from outside stepped closer, trying to see. The leader's expression changed slightly. Those records are outdated. The old woman shook her head. They are not outdated. They were hidden. She turned to Ethan for a moment, then back to everyone. I came here not to fight, she said. I came here to see who would stand for truth when it was easier to ignore it. She paused. And I found him. She looked at Ethan. Ethan did not say anything. He just stood quietly. The old woman continued. This young man helped me when I was nothing in your eyes. That action is more powerful than any claim you tried to build. The room stayed silent. The sheriff finally spoke. What do you want to do now? The old woman looked around the trading post. People were watching carefully now. Not with fear, but with attention. I want justice, she said. Not revenge, not anger, just truth. The documents were reviewed slowly. One by one, details were checked. Witness names appeared. Old agreements were confirmed. Everything matched what she said. The men who came to claim ownership had nothing stronger than assumptions. As the truth became clear, their confidence slowly faded. By afternoon, the decision was made. The land legally belonged to the old woman. The trading post was hers again. A strange silence followed the announcement. Not loud celebration, not anger, just the weight of reality settling in. Outside, the desert wind moved gently across the land, as if it too had been waiting for this moment. Later that day, the old woman called Ethan outside. The sun was lowering again, painting long shadows across the ground. She looked at him and said, You changed the outcome of this place without even knowing it. Ethan shook his head slightly. I just helped you once. She smiled softly. That one moment changed everything. She handed him a small document. What is this? Ethan asked. A new beginning, she replied. It was an official appointment. Ethan Cole was now responsible for managing the trading post under her ownership. Ethan looked at it in disbelief. I'm not qualified for this. The old woman turned toward the horizon. You are more qualified than anyone who ignored me, she said. A long silence followed. Then she added, And now, I no longer need to hide. The wind moved gently across the desert as the old woman walked away slowly, leaving the trading post behind, but not the truth she had reclaimed. Ethan stood there, holding the paper, realizing that his small act of kindness had changed not just one moment, but the entire future of the trading post.